Hello everyone. Today, I want to discuss a popular question, which is the supposed lack of prospects for defensive style. This opinion is often expressed. Defense is futile, while attack rules. Ma Long is ahead, defense is behind. Ju Sae Hyuk wasn't even a world champion. Champions of all tournaments are attackers. In general, defense is stuff, attack will win all of defenders, defense is futile. In favor of this opinion, the situation in the world table tennis rankings is also sad. In the top 20, there are always only attackers. I don't know how many defenders are in the top 100 in the world. Right, those who know. So the answer to the question about the futility of defense seems to be obvious. But it would be good to determine what exactly the prospects or lack thereof are being considered relative to. Because there is no absolute prospect or lack of perspective. Perspective or its absence can be relative to some presumed result. For example, I may not have a prospect of being elected president of Madagascar. But I may have a prospect of becoming the champion of the home in tennis or in beer drinking speed. That is, perspective without something specific cannot exist. Some reference point is needed to talk about the prospects of achieving it. So, the question is, relative to what thing are opinions expressed about the prospects of defense? If we're talking about prospects relative to domination on the world stage, so that 7 out of 10 in the top 10 are defenders, then in this case, defense is indeed futile. If you are a coach who wants to train 7 players to occupy the top 20 in the world, then don't expect them to be defenders. If you're just an ordinary table tennis player, like most people around, and you're not concerned with conquering the top 10 in the world rankings, then why worry about the global dominance of defense and the hegemony of fish over frogs in the western part of the world's oceans? What difference does it make to an ordinary player who just plays table tennis for themselves what's happening in the top 10 rankings, and how many times a Zimbabwean canary chirps in a day? I'm a defender, playing against my friend, an attacker. Why do I care how many times Ju Sae Hyuk failed to win at the World Championships? Obviously, the failures of defenders on the world stage do not affect the game of ordinary table tennis enthusiasts. Let's analyze the low amateur level. I think most spectators play at this level. What is the essence of this level of play? It is that at this level, unforced errors predominantly occur due to lack of preparation, due to weak technique. Players constantly make mistakes themselves. There are numerous unforced errors in their game and few qualitatively executed successful attacks or anything else. By the way, I remind you that in our store, we select rubbers and blades that are the best in terms of their characteristics. And we sift out the mediocre ones. So come to our store more often for shopping. It's not hard to guess that if unforced errors and technical flaws prevail at this level, then those players who can keep the ball on the table better and make fewer mistakes will win. This is actually observed in reality at low levels of play when a defender plays. I mean a defender who simply returns balls and doesn't engage in adventurous risky attacks. He simply returns and therefore wins many victories due to low risk and more frequent landing on the opponent's table. Because he is focused on not making mistakes, not on attacking and winning points. He simply lobs the balls over the net, and his opponents, lacking good technique, often shoot wide and lose. That's the reality. Of course, as the level of play increases, the need for a defender to do something more than just regular returns on the other side also increases. For example, a player who participates in international tournaments or in the top team leagues of European countries. There, it's not enough to just return the ball to the opponent's side. And defense alone won't cut it either. Besides defense, you need to transition to attack and score points with aggressive play. Moreover, you need to do this more often, so the attacking opponent understands that you can attack in any rally and so that they feel some pressure because of it. And speaking of passive defense, which means only returning the ball without attacking, even at a high amateur level, such passive defense can still be successful. This is not theoretical speculation. This opinion is based on observation of what happens at a large number of competitions. Practice has shown that old-school passive defense is competitive even at a high amateur level. And also, the fact is that there are very few players who play in a completely defensive style at a high level. And in general, such players are few. Not because it's futile, but because players don't create themselves. Players are created by coaches. And coaches prefer to create attackers. So if you don't somehow switch to a defensive style on your own initiative, then you will guaranteedly become an attacker. And coaches do it because they have the popular narrative stuck in their heads that defense is futile. And so they create attackers. Moreover, the coaches themselves are all or almost all attackers. And so they don't know how to create defenders. Or they understand that they can create a defender of a low level, but they cannot create one of a high level. And when a child is brought to them, they naturally decide to turn them into an attacker for prospects. So this is another significant reason why there are few defenders and many attackers, and why the widespread opinion about the futility of defense has emerged. In reality, not everyone needs to attack, and not everyone should be attackers. As in any endeavor, different people have different tastes, inclinations, and abilities from nature. Some people have a tendency to play aggressively, some have a tendency to play defensively, and some have a tendency towards a mixed style. I remind you, I am primarily speaking for the mass amateur level of play. For people who play tennis primarily for pleasure, not for building a player's career. Those who are building sports careers don't watch such videos and figure things out themselves. And all the others, who live in cities, villages, settlements, and play with friends or in amateur tournaments, these players can play in any style and not worry about anything. Practice shows that at the amateur level, any style of play is competitive. You can even play with long pips OX on forehand and with pips in rubber on the backhand, and it will be fine. You can even use long pips on both sides. About 10 years ago, I saw a middle-aged man playing in the second German Bundesliga with super anti-spin on both sides. I'm not urging everyone to play in defense. I'm urging you to take a closer look at yourself and see which style you lean towards more. And play in the style that this inclination manifests itself in. This way, you will achieve the best results specifically for you. This way, progress will happen faster for you. This way, you will get more enjoyment from the process in every training session and in every match. This is not something I came up with now. Science has already studied this question enough to make such conclusions. I played in attack, defense, and tried other styles. And I found that personally for me, it's more effective and interesting to play in defense. Although most people around play in attack. People have different tastes. And people have different physical abilities. So you need to take a closer look at yourself and determine what your inclination is, rather than making it up. If you look at Ma Long and like his game, it doesn't mean that such a playing style will be more effective for you. If you're naturally slower, inclined towards tactical schemes rather than quick shootouts, then playing in attack is futile for you. I suppose everyone who wanted to understand the question has already done so. If you have any questions about table tennis, ask them in the comments under the video. Goodbye to everyone.
Зачем туда играть? Зачем?